In this video, I'm making a fancy chopping board out of scrap wood. Thanks for clicking play, welcome to my bomb shelter basement workshop. In my last video, I tried to make a plate rack out of some really nice scrap wood, but I ballsed up the measurements, so I ended up making it out of some scrap plywood, which means I have lots of pieces of this beautiful wood, and I think it would look gorgeous as a chopping board. So here's a quick time lapse of how it became a basket of timber. So here's all the wood, and I'm going to attempt to turn this into the nicest chopping board I've ever made. But as usual, I'm making this up as I go along, so first of all, I need to check if I've actually got enough to make a chopping board. I'm going to double check my calculations, but I'm pretty sure the answer is no, I don't have enough wood. Luckily, I have another really nice piece of scrap wood. Hopefully, this should be enough. I'm using Adobe Illustrator on this one because I'm terrified of getting it wrong, and this is a 45 by 30 centimeter template, and if I cut everything perfectly and everything went smoothly, I would still run out of wood. So let's make this look a little bit more interesting. This one will be far more interesting and a lot stronger because we've got overlapping sections there and there, but we've also got lots of waste and offcuts, which means we've got an even bigger area to fill. So let's try another design. If I use the big chunks of wood, we will have a full chopping board. This could be the idea I use, not sure yet, but it's not screaming wow at me. It's got loads of waste around the edges and I can't get it in my thicknesser, so let's have a go at something else. I prefer this design a lot better. This central strip down the middle, it would have to be two big pieces of chunky wood. There's a lot less waste around the outside, but I wouldn't have enough wood to complete it, so let's try another. If I put two strips in the center of the board, I think it looks awesome and I have enough wood for a board, but let's just make it a tiny bit more interesting. If I space the big chunks out with some offcuts from the end and put them there, we've got this nice little straight line going down there and these going across. Yeah, that might be the one. The problem is I'm not happy with any of the designs, so I'm just going to start chopping the wood and make it up as I go along. Sticking the angle bits together was a bit of a nightmare, not even sure if they're going to be usable once they're dried, but it also made me realise that gluing up these tiny thin pieces once they're all cut is probably going to be tricky. So I'm just going to stick them on the side now and hopefully that makes it easier. That took up almost every clamp in my workshop, but hopefully it should make the final glue up a lot easier. Now for some YouTube magic as I scrape off the glue, trim everything up to make sure they're perfectly straight, and start chopping them into 6 centimeter sections. Now that I've laid it all up, I am really liking the look of it, but there's a few little issues. Even though I made a jig, we still got some furry edges. That's an easy problem to solve. The slanty pieces that I made, they haven't really worked that well, and I didn't add a thin piece to the end, so they're not the same size as the other pieces. Not sure if we'll be able to use them. The pieces that I did stick together, I stuck a thin piece against a thick piece, and you can't really tell the difference. I'm hoping that will come up once I add a coat of oil at the end. The edge pieces here, there's going to be a lot of waste, but I think if I mark them and trim them now, I should be able to fit it into the design with less waste. Now I need to sort out this giant piece of wood, figure out exactly how I'm putting this thing together before I start sticking. messed up the sizes again. I don't know how. I've got enough to make the size chopping board I want, but only if I use all 4 pieces of the extra slab that I just cut. If I actually use the diagonal pieces, which I'm not sure are the right size, and if I use the off-cut pieces from earlier and just stick them together. If I do all that, I've just about got enough for a chopping board that I don't like the look of. So here it is. If I chop all these off, I can use them on this side, then I can use these bits to space that out, but I don't like the lines going widthways. I want them going lengthways, and I know that's very OCD. If I do end up doing that design, I'm gonna have to sort these pieces out anyway, and I'll have to glue these together, so whilst they're drying, I'll have a think if there's any other method. I don't know, I really don't like it. Figured out a way of making the chopping board go lengthways, but it's either gonna look really interesting or ruin the whole project. As you can see, they're not long enough, so step 1 is chopping up one of these blocks and sticking them together so they're long enough. To make sure they had a proper connection, I used dowels, which is another thing I'm terrible at. So I made myself a little jig to make sure the holes went in exactly the same place. But I forgot the hole pattern would be reversed on the opposite one, so I had to take it apart and put another little slant on the other side. That way I could flip it over. And with a little bit of gentle persuasion, it worked almost perfectly. They were only about 0.5 millimeter out, so a quick pass through the table saw straightened them all up. And here comes the bit that could ruin the project. I'm gonna cut this thing in half. I'm scared of the table saw. It's by Evolution, so there's a few bits that are a bit rubbish, and this is a chunky bit of wood. So, yeah, I'm just gonna have to do it. The wood is actually bending for some reason as I'm cutting it, so it's trying to clamp onto the blade. Now I don't know how I'm going to cut this because it's just going to go wrong. I've jammed a piece of wood inside there to make it the same length it should be. It could just fire this out, clamp on the blade and go terribly wrong. I could cut it from the other side. I'm going to do that.
Let's finish what we started.
It's done it again. It's biting onto the blade so much that the blade is actually slowing down and not cutting through it. If anyone's ever experienced this before, let me know. I'd love to know why it's doing this, and so I don't die in future videos. What I am going to try to do is stupid, and if it works, it won't be stupid. Doesn't work, it could go really wrong. Oh. So I'm just going to jam a piece of wood in the end, and that should separate it and stop it from clamping. Oh. Thing is, I've got to start this up with the wood in there, which I know is a terrible, terrible idea. Oh, I don't know if it's dead or not, but as soon as the other half got cut off, the whole thing just warped. It went in a weird shape, and I probably haven't got a very flat piece of wood now. I'm gonna have a cry and then figure out how to fix this. I've finished crying and I've changed my idea. I'm gonna separate them into 2 main sections, put in a thick piece down the outside, one of these thin pieces on the inside, and when it glues as a solid block, I can trim the rubbish I've just ruined on the table saw. But before I start gluing, there is of course another problem. Because I use the Evolution table saw, which is rubbish, some of my pieces aren't straight. So I'm gonna have to trim them up, but here comes the full build montage. Let's go. The top's looking amazing, but I've still got to sort out these rubbish sides that the table saw ballsed up earlier.
Let's finish what we started.
I've now got 2 beautiful large slabs of wood. Now all I need to do is cut these pieces up, stick them in the middle, clamp it all together, and we're nearly there, but I just had an idea. Turgworks,
Yes, LowBodgeItFilms.
can I enter this in the Scrapwood build-off?
Of course you can. As long as it's made out of scrap wood, you can build anything you want. But like maybe just not another gentleman's sausage this time. Something a bit more practical, maybe.
Awesome. I've been at the Scrapwood build-off a couple of times now, first with the gentleman's sausage for a laugh, and then last year with this charcuterie board, which apparently I made it into the top 10. I was well impressed with that. It's an awesome little competition. Anyone can enter, even amateurs like me. And it's really cool seeing all the projects that people come up with. I recommend you enter if you're into woodwork. It's a laugh, but you've got up until the 30th of November to enter. I will put the details in the description below, and I'm going to crack on with my project. Now I understand why proper YouTubers have those really big, chunky, expensive clamps when they're doing chopping boards all day. 2 outside sections look like they could have been done by a professional. The middle looks like it's been done by a 2-year-old. I'm going to run it through the planer, see how it turns out. After planing it, it's not that bad. It's not perfect, but it's way better than anything I've ever done. There's quite a few little gaps that normally I'd fill with epoxy, but I've run out. So I'm going to use sawdust and glue instead. Hopefully that looks all right. I'm going to force glue into any of the gaps. That way, when I sand over the top of it, the sawdust should stick to these gaps. It's never worked in the past, but I need to do something.
I just need to know what's on your mind.
I promise I don't do this stuff on purpose, but look at this nice flat edge, and then look how small the edge is where I started. The chuck had slipped on my router because it's old and crap, so I had to redo all the edges with a deeper, flatter surface.
I just need to know what's on your mind.
That's probably not the easiest way of making a chopping board. There was a lot of problems I had to solve along the way as well, but I'm genuinely like so impressed with how it turned out. It's amazing. It's probably, I think it's actually the nicest looking thing I've ever made. Now, the wood is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, I'm not gonna deny that. But in my projects, there's normally quite a few little imperfections here and there, but in this one, there's hardly any. It looks really good. I've surprised myself. When I first started this project, I had loads of ideas of crazy juice grooves and weird edges, but as the project carried on, like it was just a big chunk of wood and I really wanted to keep it simple. I did really want a very small angled edge, but the router bit slipping meant I had to have a bigger angled edge. I'm okay with that. It looks really nice. And because of that, I decided to go with a really minimal handle section. So it's just got a tiny little slant so you can get your fingers underneath it to pick it up. So it's got this really nice, chunky, minimalist look to it. And yeah, very, very happy with how it turned out. This thing turned out so well. I am definitely keeping my eye out for some more high quality scrap wood so I can do some more. I've got some ideas for some interesting stuff, crazy stuff. I just need to do another one. I'm not sure if I'm going to give this away or sell it. Let me know in the comments. But first, I'm going to enter it into the Scrapwood build-off like I mentioned earlier. Now, there is a few other decent woodwork YouTube channels that follow me, comment on the videos and stuff. I think they should enter as well. So, Rare Craftsman, I definitely think you should be entering this. Wonky Cuts Workshop, Your Chopping Board's a Race, Jack Baldwin 8686. I know you don't do videos, but I reckon you'd be good at this. Wooden Wolf from the Pallet Shed. There's a few others, but I just couldn't get them all into this video. So yeah, you guys have a look at it. I think you should enter. It'd be fun. That's it for this video. My workshop is a mess and I've got 3 other videos on the go at the same time. So if you've made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. As usual, if you've got any tips, questions or suggestions, stick them in the comments below. Do the subscribe thing, that would be cool. And I will see you in the next video. It's really hard remembering that every time. See you later.